Bastards. This is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today we're going to talk about birth control in a survival situation or after shit hit the fan. But before we start, announcement. If you're interested into detective stories, this is the first part of a 11-part series about the detective that I wrote. If you're interested in it, look in the link down below, and otherwise, don't. Let's start with the video. Today I want to talk about birth control because birth control is actually something very important after any disaster, during a war, shitty defense situation, and all that, during even financial crises. It's something that not many preppers think about or want to think about actually. But it's very important because will humans will always have sex in what kind of situation they're in. So why would birth control be very important? Well, the sad truth is there sometimes it's you cannot help it because yeah because of situations like in war when I will start to announce it during a survival situation, war, or something like that. There could be you do not want to have a child that will be a drain on your limited resources because perhaps there is no professional medical help during that period, so that could be dangerous for either the mother or for the baby. um, Rape is also a big problem because during any disaster, war, financial crisis, crime will go up, and with crime there is a higher chance that there is less police and justice going on. So there will be more rape. So yeah, that's something that happened a lot, especially during war, when soldiers are highly stressed or even get orders from their commanders, or they're just going crazy because of the war. Yeah, in every war, women get raped, and that's actually a sad part of what's happening actually now in Ukraine. Next thing is prostitution, because like I said, during a war or a hard difficult financial situation, actually any kind of survival situations, some women will start to turn to prostitution to get to feed their family, their children, or to get by because they cannot find a job or there are no jobs along. So yeah, then it's very important that if you're going to do that, especially with prostitution, it's very important that you will have some way to either protect yourself against um, birth control, and also against STDs, sexual transmitted diseases. So yeah, that's something that could happen, and actually happens a lot in any area that has such situations. Um, Perhaps you do not want to have a child during a survival or a disaster situation or a crisis scenario, because the mother is in poor health, or there is a chance on birth defect. So during those situations, you do not want to either the mother or for the baby to let the pregnancy start or even continue. So that could be a very dangerous situation, especially if you're with your partner who has a certain condition that will make the chances of birth defects or other medical complications higher. So yeah, it's for the also for the health. Yeah. So what can you do for birth birth control? Well, before I will name all the modern types that you can stock on or get into your house. I want to first talk about history. Uh, I'm actually a history buff, so yeah, I like to know how did people did it in history and in certain regions with the means that they had. How did they do it? And actually, on birth control, there are a lot of different sources. So I would ask you to check it out and get some ideas. So these are a few ideas from certain time periods and places that I found So we'll start from old to the new times. So I will read it out because I don't want to miss anything. From there are sources from ancient Egypt that say that the people used some sort of vaginal plug or pessarium made out of acacia leaves, honey, and lint. You would say that's kind of crazy, but if you really think about it, if we think about my video about honey, honey is antibacterial, and yeah, that perhaps that has some properties that could slow down and even kill some sperm. So in a way, that could actually kind of work. It's sticky enough that it will prevent sperm to get closer to the egg, and also perhaps it will kill some of them off because of their antibacterial properties or antiseptic. So yeah, that's something that that's something in a way of a pessarium. They also used lint, pessarium of lint, made of lint. So what's next? The ancient Greeks. They there are there are sources that talk about a certain plant that grew into a certain area that was getting so rare that because it worked so good with as a bird control that it's almost what did the source says? It's his weight. It's worth his weight in silver or something. So yeah, I don't think those plants are common around. So I would suggest to look around into books, manuals about plants and their certain properties. Perhaps you can find something in that will have a similar effect. So what did they not use again? The ancient Greeks used wool covered in oil to, first of all, like a pessarium, block the entrance to the cervix, yeah, and with the oil to prevent that the sperm will slow down. So it's not 100. It's not you. These are older methods are not always safe or even that effective, but it's been common enough use that it must have worked to some level. So yeah, that's something to actually think about. Ancient Rome, they used condoms made out of linen or animal intestines or bladders, like sheep or goats or something. So those things, if you have goats and you reuse the intestines to make a homemade condoms if you're handy enough. So I would suggest to look some sources up on how they did it. The next thing is how do you say this in China? In ancient China, actually kind of in Asia, China, Persia, India, they commonly used something called coitus interruptus, which is like we like like to say, getting leaving church before the singing is a phrase that we kind of use, but it's actually kind of dangerous thing to do. I will talk about that later, but that's something that has been written more about. And in India specific, they used also some sort of pessaries made of out of honey, rock salt, and some other types of plants that will have some way of birth control. So yet again, pessaries are in history a common way of trying to block the cervix to get pregnant. So in a way, so yeah, uh, we start beginning to see a pattern. Europe, medieval Europe, yeah, yet again, coitus interruptus, and because of the Catholic Church was in command that time, abstinence, and also lily root in that they put into the vagina. So yeah, that's something that they apparently did. 1900s, there was a period where they used antiseptic douches. So they used some sort of chemical or some other products or some sponge filled with a certain product or chemical product that they put into the vagina. And yeah, that sounds kind of dangerous. And I think it has not that much of an effect because you also kill the good bacteria, and it's self cleaning. And yeah, with chemicals, it's kind of dangerous. So yeah, that's not a good method if you do not have the proper things like spermicides or some other products that are more fit for this use and safer for the health of the women. So yeah, that's something that I would not advise, but it's just something that you can use to think about. So yeah, those were some examples from history. I would say look it up more in greater details from historians and of historic documents. So yeah, if you're in a survival situation or yeah, shitty defense situation, those little things could help if there are no other ways. And yeah, so let's talk about things that we can do as a prepper to stockpile or do to prevent pregnancies and get uses out of birth control. Because even if you do not need certain types of birth control, it's actually good to have this in your stockpile, because perhaps one of your friends, family members, perhaps even your teenage child is getting sexually active even during this kind of emergency situations or scenarios. And yeah, perhaps you want to give them so they will not create problems for themselves, that you do not have to help them. So it's like preventing problems to start, or as a sort of bartering item, because people will always want to woohoo, if like the British want to say. So yeah, if you can barter with it, some people will give you some good stuff for it in exchange, because people like to have sex. So what can we do as a prepper? Well, there are certain. I got a list of things that you can do, and some will still sound ridiculous, but it's a list anyway that I'm going to name. First of all, non-penetrational sex. That's kind of obvious because yeah, if you want to get some sexual relief and you do not want to get your partner pregnant, well, there are other ways of having sex beside penetration. So yeah, I would say let your imagination run wild on that platform. Abstinence, yeah, abstinence is a good way to not get pregnant, but let's face it, humans are going to human. They, it's in our nature. People like to do it. Whether the situation, people who love each other will have these moments of weakness, and they will not be careful or something, or will be in a how do you say this, in a trance, into a trance when when you're really busy. So yeah, that's kind of okay, that's not really a good way, but yeah, it's on the list anyways. Pessaries or a diaphragm. So a diaphragm is something that I keep in my stockpile. It's a ring with a that is closed off, and you can use lubrication to put it into the vagina, and it's better to use it with some sort of spermicide, like a diaphragm gel that will slow down the sperm, and you will have to keep it in for you have to put it in 1 hour before, and you can only take it out 6 to 8 hours after the you have done your thing. So the good thing about this kind of birth control is that you have to look for a type that you can reuse. So even if it's not like a condom that you have to throw away, you can use it for 1 to 2 years, depending on the model or the material that it's made of. You can remove it and when it's not in use, and wash it, disinfect it, and reuse it again and again and again, as long as you, on the condition that you use it properly. Because I would say read the manual of this, but yeah, if you got one of these, you can have sexual relationships for 2 years. But be aware, this is a birth control and it will not protect against STDs. So be very carefully about that. Um, so yeah, the next thing, condoms. Of course, there are several types of condoms. Just condoms for males, obviously, and there are some other forms of condoms, like a female condom. But condoms are need to be kept in storage in a good situation, away from in a dark, dry, and cool place. In the packaging, make sure that the packaging does not get ruptured or get damaged by any way, and it have a certain expiring date. So be very carefully about a condom that you kept inside of your house, or is up for a few years, or has been um, beyond this expiration date. So yeah, be very carefully. Don't use a condom that has been in your wallet or in some other bag without a protective case around it, because yeah, the longer period a condom is in storage, the less effective it could be, because the material can decay over a certain time, or even faster when it's not properly stocked. So be very carefully about that. If you before the apocalypse buy a box of 2,000 condoms, so be very careful about it. The good thing about condoms is it will prevent STDs and pregnancies at the same time. So yeah, I would advise to always get some condoms. And even if the condoms is beyond its expiration date, there are still some survival uses for a condom. Like you during a bug out, you can fill it up with water, and it's kind of an improvised water canteen that you can take more water with you, or for to protect your hand or fingers or so of your foot after they have been wounded. And you want to prevent dirt from getting into the wound, so you can put a condom. If you wound it on your hand, you can put a condom around your hand, and perhaps even on around your arm, and try to knot it off so it will stay on its place and will protect the whole arm against against infections and dirt that could get into the wound and potential infected. So there are several ways that you can even use condoms that are being expired. Next thing, morning after pill, and or some people like to call it Plan B. It's something that I always keep in my medical stash. Why? First of all, you never know when the condom breaks, or you have or she have forgotten to take the pill that day or something. That could always happen, and often it's usually too late when you realize that there is no way back. So this Plan B could be a lifesaver during a survival situation. And it's also a good bartering item or help for one of your teenage children, or family members or friends have done something stupid. So get on morning after pill or Plan B, and yeah, keep one, at least one, in your medical stash, I would say. So usually after one time they make a mistake, they are most people will not be stupid enough to do that again or be more carefully in the next time, but humans are going to be human. Next thing, the pill, the contraceptive pill. That's something that's, yeah, that's a problem, because usually those medications are made um outside most Western countries, or they do not have the certain capacities to make them during a disaster, war, or some hardship, financial situation, crisis, where it's getting too expensive, and the government and medical, how do you say this, when the medical uh, the medical departments of your government cannot provide them anymore uh, with pharmaceutical companies. So that's something that you can still use for a certain amount of time, but during most disasters, yeah, it's not really feasible. Whether the companies cannot make them anymore because they do not have the materials to make them or the means to produce them, or they get too expensive, or they are not available anymore, or yeah, you forgot it, because during a survival situation, a war, whatever stressful situation and bug out, you will not really think about it to take your pill every day. So that's something to watch out for. Next thing, vasectomy or sterilization. For those are options that you can do before shit hit the fan. If you say, I have one or two children, I'm happy with my with I'm not planning to get any more children. You can perhaps, when the time is good, get a vasectomy or do a sterilization, and that way you will not be able to make children anymore. So yeah, that's kind of a that's something that you can do when you think that you're ready, because it's a, yeah, some procedures can be reversed, but to be honest, that could be kind of tricky during a crisis situation or after a crisis situation like shit hit the fan. So yeah, that's a preventive measurement if you are ready to not have children anymore. So that's a big decision to make. Spermicides, it's like this diaphragma shell. You can use this to, how do you say this, to slow down the sperm and kill the sperm. Yet again, this is also a sort of medicine, so it has an expiration date, and it's also perhaps not available during crisis scenarios. So yeah, that's another thing you can keep in your stockpile, but be aware of the expiration date. Fertility awareness of the ovulation. So yeah, that's something that people also did in the past, and that was be aware, look at the calendar date and see when your partner was ovulating, and on that, and with that kind of calculations, you can see on what days she's fertile and what days are not. So I would say be very very carefully about the calculations, that you will not make a mistake. So yeah, that's also something that you can do as long as you keep your head with it. Um, a cervical cap is just something like a pessary or a diaphragm. So yeah, but I think this is, I have not seen one yet, but it's something that is put deeper, I think. So I'm not sure about that. I did not find too much information about this, but it was in the list that I looked up. So yeah, these are all some things that you can do to to prevent pregnancies. Yeah, so I hope you found this video interesting. Subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Share this video if you have any other ideas for contraceptives during survival situations. Let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn about new stuff or new ways. Or if you're an historian, give me some research or some link to information that will talk about certain sources from certain time periods of areas. I would appreciate it. And if you're interested into detective series, look in the description below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Cheers!